Okay, we are live.
I would like to call to order the July 21st, 2020 work session of the Tipp City Board of Education, and we will start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Whenever you're ready, Dave, we'll take attendance.
All right. President Dunaway.
Here.
Mrs. Dahl.
Here.
Mrs. Heatherly.
Here.
Mr. Patrick.
Here.
Mrs. Zakor.
Here.
All present counted for this evening, Madam President. We do have a quorum tonight.
Okay, great. So we're going to take this opportunity to adjourn to executive session for purposes authorized under Board of Education Policy 0166 and ORC 121.22, Section G1, G2 through 6, Section 8, to consider the compensation of a public employee or official, to consider the investigation of a complaint against a public employee or official, and to prepare for, conduct, or review negotiations with public employees concerning their condition, their employment. Let's see here. Do I need to read them all, Helen?
No, that's it
They're all
right
the
there.
same. They're all the same. Okay. And also the board would like to invite into executive session Mr. Stefanik and our attorney, Helen Carroll. And Mr. Stevens. Thank you.
Okay,
And we do not anticipate any action.
we need a first and a second.
Do we want to invite Titus?
I was thinking about that. Should we invite? I thought about that.
Let's invite him.
Titus, would you like to come?
Or once for no,
He says
yes for no.
So
I'll move.
moved and seconded by Patrick and Dahl. My brain isn't working.
Was that it? Patrick and Dahl?
Yeah.
Okay. Mr. Patrick,
Yes.
Dahl,
Yes.
Dunaway,
Yes.
Heatherly,
Yes.
Zakor.
Yes.
Okay, executive session it is. Out of executive session at 9:46. We had some technical difficulties with our Zoom. So we are now resuming the new business section of the board meeting, and it is now 10:30. And our treasurer is going to get the meeting uploaded to his Zoom account as soon as he's able to do that. So thank you for waiting. We appreciate it. And I will now turn this meeting over to Dr. Kumpf. And we will start with our new business.
New business, item A. Recommend approval to accept the following retirement. Gary Pfister, Director of Business Operations, effective July 31st, 2020.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
Motion and seconded by Dahl and Heatherly. Any comments?
Thank you for your hard work for our district here.
Yes, he has done an amazing job, and he is an individual that has this unique ability to hold figures and have such a strong background in facilities and planning.
Yeah, huge loss to our district. And just to reiterate, thank you for all your service to the district, Gary, and you will be greatly missed.
He will.
Greatly. Okay, if there's no further discussion, Dave, we can call for a vote. Are you okay? Is it frozen again?
No, I'm good.
Okay.
Let's see, Dahl,
Yes.
Heatherly,
Yeah.
Dunaway,
Yes.
Patrick,
Yes.
Zakor.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Item B, recommend approval to accept the following resignation. Leslie Cristofano, Assistant High School Principal, effective July 31st, 2020.
I'll make the motion. Second. Motion and seconded, Heatherly and Zakor. Are there any comments?
I'd like to wish Leslie, Ms. Cristofano, well, and best wishes on her next opportunity in education.
I would like to thank her for all of her hard work on National Honor Society. She made some really great changes this year that were very well received. And also, she did a lot of hard work on the graduation.
She absolutely
And
did.
she, I'm sure there were many other people involved, but I know that she kind of spearheaded that and took ownership of that, and just really appreciate her effort. And it was really wonderful for the students. So thank you.
I appreciate those comments.
Okay, ready for a vote, Dave?
Heatherly,
Yes.
Zakor,
Yes.
Dahl,
Yes.
Assistant High School Principal, effective July 31st, 2020.
I'll make the motion.
Second. Motion and seconded, Heatherly and Zakor. Are there any comments?
I'd like to wish Leslie, Miss Cristofano, well and best wishes on her next opportunity in education.
I would like to thank her for all of her hard work on National Honor Society. She made some really great changes this year that were very well received. And also, she did a lot of hard work on the graduation.
She
And
absolutely did.
she, I'm sure there were many other people involved, but I know that she kind of spearheaded that and took ownership of that. And just really appreciate her effort, and it was really wonderful for the students. So, thank you.
I appreciate those comments.
Okay, ready for a vote, Dave?
Heatherly,
Yes.
Zakor,
Yes.
Dahl,
Yes.
Dunaway,
Yes.
Patry.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Item C, recommend approval to revise Mr. Mark Stefanik's consultant agreement originally approved on May 18, 2020 for a bridge term period commencing on the 23rd of March 2020 and ending on the 31st day of July 2020 that included up to 15 work days, now to include up to an additional 10 days, anticipate to be scheduled in July 2020.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Motion and second, Dunaway and Dahl. Are there any comments? I would just like to thank you, Mr. Stefanik, for being able to come in and give us these extra additional days to accommodate our community and all the emails we received today and the parents, you know, the work that you and your team are putting in with this restart plan. So, greatly appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Any other comments?
Allow me to ask you.
You're welcome. Whenever you're ready, Dave.
Dunaway,
Yes.
Dahl,
Yes.
Heatherly,
Yes.
Patry, Zakor.
Yes. Motion carries. Now the big item that we've all been waiting on for 4.5 hours, the reset and restart plan.
Right back. Gotta get a charger.
Charger. Let's get a
I
charger.
gotta get a charger. I've already given some intro comments, but it's all.
All right, let me get you the presentation. All right.
Thank you, Ms. Dunaway, board members, Dr. Cohn. If the board's okay with it, to make sure that my voice comes through clearly on the recording. I think I'm 6 foot away from virtually everybody, so I'm gonna take my mask off, and then
So that we can hear you.
hopefully the voice comes through a little
There you
bit
go.
clearer,
Thank you.
for the presentation. As Ms. Dunaway just said, been a lot of excitement and/or anxiety waiting for the rollout of the restart plan for the Tip City schools. Just so the board knows and the community knows, this is a draft plan because it's been developed here in-house at the district office after receiving survey information from the various health departments and our ESC and our State Department of Education. What we want to do is after we present it to you, we'll ask for your input over the next several days. We're also going to bring in district or building level administration, and we're going to have the executive board of TTEA and later in the week to receive input from those groups as well. And hopefully we can make any revisions. We'll monitor whatever the governor might be prepared to present on Thursday, and then look for something to be final by next week's board meeting. With that being said, even after we finalize a plan, there's a big asterisk at the bottom as things change with either the virus or Ohio's status with the virus. If any more executive orders come down from the governor or the director of health at the Ohio Department of Health, our plan has to be revised according to those mandates. Folks have asked how much local control is there. Local control begins where the mandates end, and then we can make some decisions from that. So our plan has in it, or our PowerPoint has in it, some background information, some agreements that the Miami County superintendents have made, with each other. Then we've got some information from health departments, we've got information from our staff, parent, and student surveys, and then we'll let you know the conclusions we've made off of that.
So this thing's not working, Dave, you got it? Got it.
Okay. Guiding principles from the Miami County group of superintendents. First and foremost, we're going to try to implement as many safety protocols as possible so that our sites are safe for our students and our staff members. That's a given. We're going to work closely with the health department to put those safety protocols in place, but at the same time, an important piece to this is that we don't have the ability to eliminate all risk. Folks would need to know that when we put the rollout plan out there and we open up our school buildings, we're gonna have groups of people, adults and students, coming together, and so there's always that chance that somebody might contract the virus. And so folks have to know that coming forward. And then we're gonna try to be consistent with as many things as we can, but we also know that each building has its individual needs, and so there might be a few things that we have to modify based on the building. But other than that, our approach forward is gonna be consistent for the district. Get it? Have a lot of survey data. And we're not gonna take you through all 15 to 20 questions of every survey, but we're gonna highlight some of the things that we garnered from the surveys. First and foremost, as you can see here from the parent survey, many parents very comfortable with us focusing on a plan to bring the students back to school 5 days a week. If you add together the don't have a preference and the return to school in a safe setting, you get to almost 85%, of our parent population, and so that by far is the direction parents would like us to go. Next, Dave, we'll go through these quickly. We asked them, if we bring folks back to school, what are the priorities? Of course, everybody wants to enhance cleaning to try to minimize the virus's life in the school or on surfaces, hand sanitizer in every classroom and used as frequently as possible, and then limiting classroom seating to maintain social distancing. With that being said, you'll see with our plan, in order to bring everybody back, we don't have the square footage to do 6-foot distancing, but we have the ability to do 3 to 6 foot distancing. That was from the American Association of Pediatrics. Click forward again. Here's a few other of our questions that had to do with maintaining enrollment in the school district. And regardless of the questions, one thing that we need to focus on, the blue line is significantly bigger than any other line, and the blue line is remain enrolled, in the Tipp City School District. And so that was a good thing to see. Wearing masks had a little bit of a group that said that would be a cause to withdraw from school, but distance learning, the bar was actually bigger. So again, reinforcing the fact that face-to-face learning is definitely the requested route for the school district to go, if at all possible.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Do you want us to save questions to the end?
Yes,
Okay,
if you could, yeah.
Thank you.
How do I go backwards on this?
Sorry, Dave.
Oh, you're okay. Okay, all right, there you go. We checked on internet access and device access, and we were very pleased with this result. Almost 94% of our families had access to high-speed internet, either through cable or through fiber, and that was kind of a surprising number. We weren't aware that it was that high. And again, we did not get 100% of our families responding, but we got over 1,000 responding, and so that was a pretty good number. All right, Dave. Devices, 51%. Again, that doesn't mean that only 51% of our families have a computer or a device in their house. it means that 51% have an individual device for the child to use. So if a family has one computer and parents are working from home and a child has to get on for work, or multiple children have to get on for work, that can create an issue with timelines and efficiency. This question was about, do the children have access to their own device separate from what the rest of the family uses, and we had 50%. So that's where we come in with some district devices and try to assist with that, across the board. Good. Switching to the staff survey, you can see we kind of have a mix, in the staff survey, about 45%. Let's work on getting the students back in school, but I think we've got 40% that say work on making sure it's safe for staff and students to come back to school, and then make sure that we've got a high-quality remote learning plan as well. As we reviewed this information, this tells us that staff believes that we might be shifting gears as the school year goes on. And so we might be able to, be in session 5 days a week, but we might get some mandates that create an interruption to that. And if there are interruptions to that, we need to make sure that we've got a high-quality remote option for our students to be involved in, if there are any temporary or long-term, like a month or so type of closures that we're ordered into. We can't just say, hey, we're coming back to school, and not address the remote learning needs that the students would have. Priorities for staff, very similar to what the responses were for the parents. The third one, though, staff and students wearing masks. That rose up to the third level, where in the parent survey it was social distancing happening in the schools. And what you'll see, not to skip to the last page of the story, but what you'll see is in the recommendation, we've got kind of a mixture of those two priorities in the plan. Staff, very similar to the parents, a high percentage of access to high-speed internet. Devices, go ahead, Dave. Devices, a little bit higher on the percentage for access to a device, but again, it might not be an individual, device for the household, and so that's where we have about a quarter of the staff that may not have their own device at home, but they just have a family device.
Wait, that was the wrong way.
Oh, sorry?
Nothing.
Okay,
There we go.
okay.
Student survey.
Okay, going to the student survey, starting what do the students want to see for in-person school, enhanced cleaning occurring in the schools, hand sanitizer, and the students, a little modification on the staff answer. They want all staff wearing masks, but the students did include themselves, in the group like the staff did. So that was interesting. And again, there have been some studies out there that say if you open as a school, the thing to focus on is to make sure that all the adults maintain social distancing, and that there isn't as much of a high priority with student-adult interactions in a little closer proximity. Again, you get some different versions on that, but one thing that is for sure, that adults passing it to adults is something that you have to guard against, and so social distancing and masks for the adults should be a priority. Interesting thing, results here for students. How compliant would you be if the school district said you need to wear masks? I appreciate their honesty, here, with that. About 30% said that, they would be compliant and they would follow the rules of the school. But again, 42% said, we'd be somewhat compliant. So that gets us into the 70% range, where the students are willing to at least consider being compliant with the mask. Then we have, again, the last almost 30% said, like, I don't want to deal with the masks at all, and to the tune of being non-compliant, with the mask requirement. So again, honest with the students, but the positive there is 70%. Hey, we understand, and we try to be as compliant as we could. Remote learning, Again, just so the board is aware of this, even outside this plan, let's say, we can come back 5 days a week and there are no interruptions and we go 5 days a week. There is going to be an expectation, for a remote learning component to education. And so, we ask the students this question, this is for this plan, but again, remote learning, with the technology that we have access to is an important component to education now. And so we'll continue to grow, our abilities to create remote opportunities for the students to learn. And so we'll use these, whether we're interrupted or not, in our 5-day educational plan. But again, the student says, they want to be able to access the assignments and work at them at their own pace. So again, a sequenced, a set of assignments or activities for them to be involved in, and they work through it and complete it at their own time and their own level. Scheduled live meetings, with the teachers. Don't just hand out, work for them to complete. Have the teachers guiding, the activities and be there for assistance as needed. And then again, virtual office hours for those extra times when it's a non-big group or a small group setting where individual students can connect with teachers for individual support. Again, students, we've got a pretty high percentage of reliable internet. Again, a high percentage of owned devices, but we can definitely help out with the 25% who don't believe that they have access to their own individual device. The school district has the resources to help out with that. All right, this is small print for those of you back there, but if you have it on your computer, you can blow it up a little bit. Here's some of the health agencies that we get information from and we monitor for changes. And when we're talking about face coverings, it's an emotional topic, and there are people that definitely yes, definitely no, and everything in between. But when we're looking at health departments, the CDC, face coverings should be worn by staff and students, particularly older students, and especially when physical distancing is difficult. All right, I give you class changes at the high school. Virtually everybody, unless they don't have to switch classes, is in the hallway. And so that might be a time when you say, have one handy, because nobody is 6 feet away from anything, when they're in the hallways. The American Association of Pediatrics and some folks, really shared that a lot in emails that came to me and to the board. So, we were monitoring that and do a compare contrast with the CDC. And it says 3 feet may approach the benefits of 6 feet if you incorporate the mask, to that. Then between the mask and still you have 3 feet of distance, you can get the same health protections as you can get from 6 feet. And it says middle and high school students, when not able to maintain the 6 foot, should have face coverings on, along with the adults in those buildings. Ohio Department of Health, face coverings make a difference. If you can wear one, you should. And when you wear a face mask when you're out in public, you're not just protecting yourself, you're protecting others from whatever you might, be carrying. And then Miami County, everyone should wear a cloth face cover when they have to go out in public. It's meant to protect other people that you're in contact with. And then it says continue to keep about 6 feet. So there's commonalities, from every health department, but they're all saying that the masks are definitely something that can help. Here's something that's out there on the internet. This actually came from a medical center out in California, but it talks about us trying to create the safest environment possible. And when you get down to the bottom here, I did it with my hand, sorry. When you get down to the bottom here with both people wearing masks, it says here, transmission, extremely low risk, and then at the bottom, if you have 6 feet and the mask, virtually non-exposure is the case. So when we start saying we're gonna try to provide the safest environment possible, we should be targeting this part of this chart. And that's when both folks involved in any close contact, 6 feet, or less, both folks have masks on. That helps out the interrupt the transmission of the virus. All right, the proposal. All right, we've got three phases, and some folks, may critique this because they're poking holes in some of the county alert levels. But we found other districts, we're locking in with this, and it seemed like a good place to use as triggers. The all-in model, it's 5 days a week for all students. Buses are running, students come to school, they have school as close to what they remember, as possible. That happens when we're at county alert levels 1 and 2. And we'll show you in a second, 1 and 2 correspond with the colors, that are out there. And right now, we're in level 2, in Miami County. The hybrid model, blended model, where we would have students, one group of students on Monday and Tuesday, another group of students on Thursday and Friday, and then Wednesday is everyone, in remote learning, and the teacher's actually planning lessons for the next week's 2 days of the students coming in. That lines up with the Career Center, Career Technical Center that just released their plan yesterday. That's the plan that they have lined up for their students. And then remote learning, hybrid would happen at level 3, which is color red on the county model. And then the last one, remote learning for everybody, that's when we get the order that we basically have to shut down school, and that would be at the purple level, which is the worst level right now. Nobody in Ohio is purple, and we hope we keep it that way. And then we can focus in on at least some live learning, in the schools. There is the rating system, and again, we put numbers with the colors, so if somebody forgets the colors, they might be able to remember the numbers. 1 is a good place to be, 0 is the best place to be, but 1 is as good as we get on this chart, and 4 is where you don't want to be. There's another illustration of that. Here's some of the recommendations for all in. Again, like to say that we sat here and racked our brains by ourselves, but these are the recommendations that are out in several school plans, and a lot of recommendations from health departments. Parents would assess student health before school, and then make declarations that the child is symptom-free when they leave the house. Face masks required per district expectations. Right now, the recommendation would be grades 4 to 12. The state recommendation is 3 to 12. A lot of folks are saying secondary school, but our 3rd grade is in a building with our 2nd graders, and so you can't say, okay, this half of the building you've got to wear masks, this half you don't. And they're saying that the primary level students, are the ones that have the hardest time with the masks. It might even increase face touching, which defeats the purpose of the mask. And so if we just start at 4th grade on up, those would be the older students and the ones that are probably changing classes more often than the younger ones anyways, and so they'd be less than 6 feet for more of the day. Additional cleaning, lunchroom space expands to other areas. What does that mean? That means we either really social distance at lunch, and lunch periods last really long, or we spread out into some other areas and we can social distance, and or at the elementary level, the students take the food back to their classrooms. And they eat in that social distance, which the desks would already be, 3 to 4 feet apart as it is. 2 students per seat on the buses. That's a recommendation, again, but on the buses, when you're 2 per seat, take out your tape measure. There's no way to be 6 feet apart or even 3 feet apart, in a seat if you're 2 per seat. And so then you would mask up on the bus to make sure that there were no, you'd minimize the transmissions with the masks on.
And that would be all levels, all grades?
Yeah, at that point it would be, yes. Again, we've had some folks say they would volunteer to help us out with anything that they can to minimize transmission and minimize the number of people in the buildings. You're supposed to have virtually a non-visitor policy. Again, mom might need to come pick up Johnny because he has an appointment or he's sick or something like that. Those folks are allowed in, but other than that, classroom volunteers, visitors of any other sort, it would just be the populations, in the building until we, get a handle on this virus statewide. Hand sanitizing stations in as many places as we can put them. No shared student supplies, so whatever your child brings to school, that's what he uses. Again, touch points, minimizes the touch points. Field trips would have to be put on hold until the virus transmission settles down, and no large student assemblies, because we're really gonna focus on when the students aren't in their classroom, we'll try to expand that out to 6 feet, social distancing as much as possible. Piece on attendance, we'll get to that as you get to remote attendance. Practices change, so when they're in school, yeah, we'll take attendance every day and see who's there. Next one, the hybrid model. Again, 2 days a week and then 3 days a week online. What we have there is all the same things would go in, but we went up a level, and so now we're down to 1 student per seat on the bus. And we can do that because we'd only be bringing in half the population on any given day. On those days, attendance taken on days in the classroom, but then attendance also taken, you monitor online time, through remote things, and/or if the teacher has a live session, she takes attendance on who's signed into the Zoom meeting or the Google Meet.
Is that the only difference there?
Then the last one, if we're ordered to go to remote only, what we'd have to do there, we'd have to make sure that we kicked in our lunch services for students and families who needed that. No large group activities at all. Band and choir would have to be put on hold, but the OHSAA said that they would determine what would happen with extracurriculars if we got to that point. And so we put that, we had no athletic contest to coincide with no large group events, but the OHSAA right now says, we'll let you know if you're ordered to cancel events, but you may not have to cancel all the sporting events. And on that one, monitor students' online time, and that's the way attendance would be taken for the remote learning pieces. Full-time online option, I want to state this, even though it's not in this slide, this is not our remote learning. What this would be is we buy into an online company, and then folks, they wouldn't wait for our decision about whether it's 5-day school or hybrid or remote. They're in the online option, or we're going to ask them to at least sign in for a semester at a time to see how many licenses we have to purchase. This is also different than homeschooling. If a parent decides to homeschool, the responsible educator there is the parent. This online option, you have the teachers are embedded in the program. They're right there, and they're not Tip City teachers. Tip City teachers will do their remote learning for their classrooms. Again, this is a purchased service, and the online school has its teachers, has its help desk, has all the other options, and when we get the actual vendor that the ESC is deciding on for consortium pricing, we'll get all the specifics about what that vendor provides. So you've got stay with Tip City and go 5 days, or hybrid, or remote, purchase through the consortium, and you stay listed as a Tip City student. All right, and then Tip City gets to count that person in their ADM for funding purposes and responsibility. Also at the bottom there, we're going to have a Tip City staff member monitoring the students in this program, and so they will have a local teacher as their point of contact. So that's an extra added support in addition to whatever the computer company, or the online company offers. Then the other option would be if you wanted to be a homeschooled student, then you would not be a student of Tip City, but you'd have to register with Tip City and let Tip City know that you were doing the homeschooling option. Okay? And the last piece, once we get this to finalized with an asterisk, waiting for, any changes in state orders, we're going to do, 2 community information / town hall meetings. And I think I mentioned this when we talked, through the interview process. A lot of times you'll see folks do this, like coffee with the superintendent, and it's 10:30 in the morning. Well, there's some folks that because of work schedules and family commitments, they can never participate in that type of meeting. And so we're gonna do one at noon, and then we'll do the same thing at 7 PM to communicate information out and to hold a Q&A after we put the plan out there. And the other pieces of how we'll get information out to folks in addition to the Q&A session.
Is that it?
That's the last one, I believe.
Okay, it's not going anywhere.
So and we'll go ahead and even post this, in addition to it being part of this meeting, we'll go ahead and post it on our website and just say, here's the draft as it stands right now.
What vehicle can we direct questions? Because everybody's gonna have lots of questions about nuances of this presentation.
Okay? They can either send them right to my email, or I can check with Liz and see if she's got, a place that folks bring Q&As to typically. She communicates with a lot of folks and she gets a lot of emails herself, and so if we have to, we'll put both of our emails out there as places they can address questions.
So you bring up a great point with the Q&A, because we did this with distance learning, so we keep getting multiple emails on the same thing. So will we do like on our homepage, like a Q&A thing, so people can go there first, because maybe the question's already been asked?
Yes,
Okay.
and somebody asked before this meeting started if, after we rolled out the plan, were we gonna update the Q&A, or the FAQ?
Yeah.
And we'll do that.
Okay.
Yes?
In the community session, how is that, are we envisioning live participation, and if so, how will that occur?
Well, we were, Zoom, a Zoom meeting, if any of the glitches and all the glitches are ironed out, by then we would do that, and we would have to, make sure that, the folks were respectful of everybody else in the call, so there weren't people trying to yell over top of somebody with a question. There is a way to signal, if you want to participate, and at that point, we would recognize the person by name or whatever title comes up in their little box, and then they would be instructed to unmute at that point, ask the question, then go ahead and mute, and then our mics would just stay live for the whole Q&A session.
When you present this on Monday to the board, are we gonna have any type of timeline? Because there's no timeline with this on when, because this is kind of broad stroke.
Yeah, it's
not
broad,
really,
it's broad.
it's not
Oh,
in
yeah.
the weeds.
Yes.
So a lot of the emails we received today were kind of getting into the weeds, which I completely understand.
Right.
So when can we expect a timeline on, when parents need to do this, when you need to decide, if you're online or all this type of thing,
Yeah,
busing?
Right, yeah, those are coming, and we're gonna actually, put more, they're not gonna necessarily be surveys, but they're gonna be more like forms to fill out about transportation, about, if you wanna, stay as a typical student or whether you wanna go online student. Those things will be rolling out, but even the specifics of the plan, what does frequent cleaning mean?
Right.
What does lunch look like? Those types of things. We're gonna put together work groups with actual food service folks and custodians on those work groups, and hopefully have a nice informational packet out there by the early double digits of August. So, that seems like really close to the school year, but it's August next Saturday. And so it's, a week from Saturday, yeah. a week from Saturday, it would be August, and so, you know, getting the work done, getting the stuff rolled out, you know, things will be happening between now and then, but by August the 10th, people should have a great picture of what the school experience is gonna look like.
So, I have some questions, I have a lot of questions, but it's 11. So, should I just call you and have a conversation with you? Because a lot of this stuff is like in the weeds stuff
Yes,
that
yes.
you know, like, is the mask gonna be a part of student conduct? Are we gonna expect teachers to engage and get in a fight with kids if they don't have a mask on? Like, those kind of questions.
I'll say no to that.
Right.
That I can say no right now, yeah.
Right.
But
yeah,
only
yeah,
70% said
yeah,
they would wear a mask,
Yeah,
so 30% are gonna have this, yeah.
Right, so
Yeah.
those,
K through 3, they won't,
Right, there you
yeah, so I guess, you know, those kind of questions, I can just call you, I'll email you, you can let me know a good time to call you.
Yes.
And we can have a conversation.
Yes.
I
Sounds
think
good.
that piggybacks on my statement, which is, I'm sure we all have lots of questions, like how's tracing gonna happen? And what if I'm exposed, are you gonna tell everybody in the classroom? There's a lot of.
I could say no to that too, you know, 'cause
Well,
they, yeah,
It seems like there should be a clearinghouse to put all these questions so that when you
Right.
present on Monday, you're able to address some of the
Right.
bigger.
and actually, some of those kinds of questions about like the contact tracing and who gets informed and when things get closed, some of those are in conjunction with the health department, and so those decisions would be taken off of the school district, and the health department would come in and say, okay, this is first step, this is second step, this has to happen, that has to happen, and they'll guide us through that. And so we've already heard from them that that's when they take over and start talking about the health piece of it. But yeah, all those kinds of questions, that's why this first thing was to get information out to the board, see if the board thinks like we're on the right track. And if we're on the right track, then we start putting together the work groups and finalizing decisions about this is what that looks like, and this is what we have to do, this is what these groups of people have to take extra responsibility for, and so forth and so on.
Do you maybe wanna create a Google sheet, and then we can all put our questions on a Google sheet? Like board member questions, or is that a good idea?
No, it's not a good idea,
Okay.
because that violates,
Okay.
sunshine, because then we're all communicating on one Google Doc.
Oh, yeah.
No, for him, for Mr., like, if we
No,
don't,
if we
okay, yeah, got
We'll
it.
just,
Individually,
Got-
yeah,
gotcha,
we
okay.
I'll send out, and then
Got
as we get information that all the board needs to know, then I can maybe put together an information sheet and send it out as like a weekly.
Oh,
Update
you don't need to
type
spend your
of
time on that, don't worry about
Sure.
that, we'll just send it to you. We'll try not to give you a million questions.
Well, and there are, this is
You probably have the
important.
answers to most of them
Right,
anyway.
it's important,
Right.
this is important, it's also, kind of, anxiety creating,
Very much so.
because, you know, we wanna make sure that, you know, education can happen, but we also wanna make sure that, you know, we're being as safe and responsible, as we can be, you know, with the plan, and so that's where our goal, sometimes I read the emails, and it almost makes it sound like, as educators, we don't want the kids back in the school, but we really do. You know, we miss the kids being in school, the teachers miss that came up in so many surveys from the teachers. You know, we miss our kids, you know, being in school, and we wanna interact with them, and we wanna be there to provide direct support live, you know, to them, and that's what everybody wants. But at the same time, we don't wanna make anybody sick. We don't wanna have an extension of the school go out into some families or into a community and make people sick, and so we're balancing, you know, what we can do educationally with what we should be as responsible community members, making sure that, you know, we don't add to any health situation, out there. Anything else? Okay, as I said, we've got, building administrators and, TCEA coming in to talk about, this plan later this week. Questions from you, very welcomed, input from you, you know, very welcomed, and we'll keep monitoring, what comes out of the state and or the various health departments if they give us any more direction.
Thank you for putting this together. I think you are on the right track.
Yeah.
You worked hard.
The group is all here. One other informational item for the board, and, this might come across the wrong way, and I don't want it to come across the wrong way. Several people have communicated, there's a difference between a mandate and a recommendation. the guidance we've been given, and I did ask, you know, our board attorney before our meetings tonight. We heard this from some other attorneys, and we heard it from insurance companies. Where do you land on this? And the counsel we've been given was that, again, to create the safest possible environment, we should be looking to the health professionals, and even if it's a recommendation, we should be trying to follow as many of those recommendations as possible to minimize the school district's liability. And so I know some folks out there say, they didn't say it's a mandate, we don't have to do it. But, you know, as the governing group for the school district, you know, to be as responsible as we can, we should be following the health department guidance. Yes.
Is it fair to say that whatever this presentation looks like live in school, that in addition to that, there will be a remote learning component as an option for those that choose not to come into the building?
Yes, that was that last piece.
So I mean, that's a
That was the-
given.
Yes, that was that
Second to
last piece.
slide.
Yeah, and the ESC has offered to vet out online companies. And they've got a consortium now of 4 counties, Montgomery, Miami, and the 2 that rhyme. Dark and Clark.
Dark and Clark, yeah.
Yeah, that's how I can remember. Those 4 counties coming together, and we hope that that helps out the cost structure, so that as many families as you know, want to take that option, that it becomes you know, something budgetary that we can
So
handle.
Mark, since that is a safe, more secure, isolated option, then if they're coming to school and the mask thing, whether it's recommended or mandated, they do have a choice. There's a menu, the remote learning or in-house.
Yes, yes.
So why can't like a liability waiver satisfy, you come into the building, you may be wearing your mask, you may not be wearing your mask, the other kids may be wearing, they may not be wearing, that's why you're gonna sign a liability waiver.
Now,
Because
well,
if you really are that concerned, then you should do option.
Online.
yeah, option B,
online.
yes. Yeah, well, and that's, and again, that's the decision that we'll look to you 5 to finalize, whether there's a mask mandate for students and staff, or whether masks are highly recommended. In our surveys, some folks took the time, in addition to checking a box, to putting a comment. You know, when we asked for other comments, their comment was about masks. You know, and a lot of them were about masks in the non-air conditioned buildings. And so those are our 2 primary buildings, and so the staff would have a mask right now, mask mandate, but the students wouldn't. And
Well,
so-
Nemancopik and Broadway are K3, so they won't have to wear masks.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, LT Ball is air conditioned, and
Right.
so is the Middlesboro High School, so we
But the
should be.
teachers do.
The
still.
teachers,
Right.
the teachers
Yeah, that's a
at-
governor,
at
yeah.
Broadway and-
Yes.
The governor said the staff
Okay.
has to
Right,
wear
right now,
masks.
How
yeah,
are they
right
gonna
now,
teach,
yeah.
like seriously, how are they gonna teach
I know.
phonics with
That's,
a mask?
that's what's in the comments.
Cut out.
Right.
That's what's in the comments.
Or the shield.
Now,
Or the
again,
shield,
the-
I guess, I guess
Yeah.
the shield is to me.
That's what they're using
yeah.
at these summer camps, like Waco summer camps, they're
Yeah.
using the
The
shields.
shield.
So
they
you'll
can see
get
the
none
whole
of that
face.
air from the fan blowing on you. Your
Well,
shield
it's
will
all
be
hot
hitting your
air
nose
anyway.
the whole
Right.
time, but.
Right.
But that's so.
This is a new style that actually sits on the neck, so it's not pressed.
Oh,
Halo.
I haven't seen that one yet.
So they're in the- without the bag.
Oh, yeah, I haven't seen that one yet.
So that's
Show the
So it
camera.
squeezes in on your carotids,
That's
and then
it.
you get, all of a sudden, from the heat and the pressure there, then you get hypotensive and.
I don't know, it's really light.
It's just another option,
Putting that.
and I
Yeah.
know some of them are thinking they're afraid it's like a headache, and you know, the.
Oh my gosh,
heat
yeah.
and The band,
That's around the neck?
Yeah, this goes
Uh-huh.
here. Yeah,
and
like
then you
it-
can
and
tilt
it actually like
it,
rests
tilt,
on
you
your
can
shoulder.
tilt it out or up straighter.
Huh. So what is that, really, I mean, I'm so sorry to be sarcastic, but airborne pathogens can move in all different, what's that gonna prevent, just a kid spitting in your face or something?
Well, that's, I imagine that's the direct, yes. When I've seen the recommendation,
I love your question.
when I've seen the recommendation on these, again, it's this and
And
this.
mask is the most most ideal.
Is what
For like
they
a
put
flying
out
Yeah,
bus,
we
Yeah.
can't breathe.
where
But-
you really would
but
like to
again-
see them now.
Yeah, this came about, again, the other group that this came about for was bus drivers. And so they said some bus drivers that wear glasses, that if you have a mask on, you're gonna start fogging up your glasses, and so this gives a little bit of space between the glasses and
Because
the
we had an
screen.
email from a parent who's a nurse, and she said, my glasses fog up with my mask.
Yeah. So the bus drivers, and then we did that from primary teachers and or speech,
That probably lets them see
pathologists.
better too, as
Right.
they're driving the bus, you know?
Yeah.
So like turn and,
Yeah.
yeah.
So there's all kinds of things to consider, and so we're researching as many things as we can. But again, that is, your question goes right to the final decision.
Yeah.
Is there a mask mandate, or is there a mask recommendation, in the schools? And that's
Right.
something that,
And maybe
again,
like you said, in certain areas of the
Yeah,
school,
like hallways.
hallways,
Hallways.
but not, I mean, it's
Right.
no different than
Right.
the book bags, right, Mr. Verhoff? You don't let them carry their book bags around, they.
No, but
No.
that's something we may need to rethink as well this year, when you've got students sharing lockers and things like that, that's probably not gonna be a possibility. So these are all things in those subcommittees that we're gonna have to get figured out.
A lot of details.
the
It's like a
detail-
graduation.
And hopefully the governor doesn't change the rules between.
Yeah, on August 30th.
You
Well,
probably will.
Well, and that's what we were discussing, that there's a possibility
You
that
could change it
as,
all.
as the numbers change or as things change, that there could be a governor's press conference weekly, and something else could change, and then we have to modify it, something else
Well,
changes. then we can
you know
modify
what might work would be like a block schedule at the high school. Because if you're trying to carry around 8 periods worth of
There's no
books and
way,
your
they're so
stuff.
heavy.
That's something we've talked about
Mm-hmm.
leading up to all this, and even when we were looking at a possible blended model, that you would come in, you'd have 3 classes, you'd have a group that would come in, have 3 classes in the morning, so a 3-hour session,
Mm-hmm.
an hour for lunch, then
Mhm.
another group would come in and do their three
Mhm.
classes, and the next day you just switch. And the high school would have been almost on a 5-day-a-week,
Yeah,
half-day schedule,
yeah.
Yeah.
because they don't need transportation.
Right.
So then that frees up spaces on buses for other students. So there's a lot of things we've been looking at, and we've just been in one big holding pattern. And fortunately now, we're able to put some things on paper and hopefully get some of this framework figured out.
One suggestion for, that I thought of, because of course this has been on all of our minds for a long time now, but one suggestion for the high school would be, would this be a good time to consider getting rid of the advisory period? Because those kids are in there, it's more switching, you're in advisory for 9 minutes, then you leave, then the next group of kids come in. And then would this also be the year to consider open lunch? So that the kids that can drive can go home for lunch, and it frees up space in the lunch areas, wherever we're eating lunch. So those might be 2 high school considerations.
Well, on your first suggestion, that's what Steve was getting to, was that, try to modify the schedule, so if there used to be 6 times that the kids are in the hallways, see if you can cut that in half.
Yeah.
And so then you either expand periods, or you alternate days, more like a college schedule, and then you have longer periods for math on Monday, but then you wouldn't have math again until Wednesday, and then something else would go in that time slot on Tuesday. So the advisory thing, if it gets rolled into some other class period, that might be an option.
Or even if it gets, that 9 minutes gets rolled into extra hallway time, because it's gonna be, with social distancing, going to the bathroom, all that stuff's gonna take longer.
And if you do any sort of directionality,
Oh,
the
yeah.
past.
Right. Oh, that's a
then
good idea.
they may have to walk over
Yeah,
more
4 minutes,
distance.
4 minutes at the high school isn't gonna be enough time.
You
For
could
kids to
run
get to class.
plexiglass down the center of the hallway, so you can.
Those shower
That'd
curtains.
cost $1 million.
Shower curtains.
$1 million.
There we go. I like that.
So this is basically
Oh
what
my
happens
gosh.
between the 21st of July and when school starts at the end of August. These are the types of specifics that we have to dig into and finalize.
Well, thank you, it's no small task.
Nope,
Yeah, thank you.
sure.
So on to the next thing?
Yeah, I think we're done, right?
No.
Oh,
We have
sorry.
new policies for free.
Oh,
Oh, my God.
Thank you for putting that together,
Yes,
sharing it
thank you
with us.
very much.
Thank
Sure.
you.
Thank you.
okay.
Giving people
So with our
information.
reset and restart plan being fully discussed, we'll look for more information on that Monday. So then that takes us to miscellaneous. Is this, Dave Stevens, is this you or Dr. Kump?
It can be me.
Okay, so go ahead, Dave.
Yeah, so tonight we have a first read of a new an amended policy, policy 1520, employment of administrators. This policy has been amended to include vacation for administrators. It incorporates almost all of the same items that we did in our previous policy earlier in June for non-teaching employees for their vacation. Does anybody have any questions on this policy?
No, we all received it last week, and it's, like you said, it mirrors the other one that we did for the
Yeah,
certified.
just a slight tweak here and there, but other than that, I think it does meet the goal of putting in place the policy, vacation policy for administrators, including how vacation is paid out.
Sounds good?
Okay, so with that, this will be considered the first read. The second read will occur at next Monday's meeting, which will be then read again, reviewed again, and then voted on for approval.
Okay, so our next regular Board of Education meeting will take place on Monday, July 27th, 2020, at the Board of Education, beginning at 6 p.m. The next work session meeting will take place on Monday, August 10th, 2020, at the Board Office, beginning at 6 p.m. And the August regular Board of Education meeting will take place on Monday, August 24th, at the Board of Education Office, beginning at 6 p.m. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
I'll motion.
I'll second. Motion and seconded by Dahl and Dunaway. Ready for a vote, Dave?
Yes. Dahl.
Yes.
Dunaway.
Yes.
Heatherly.
Yes.
Patrick.
Yes.
Zakor.
Yes.
Perfect.
Meeting is adjourned at 11:21.
Thank you all for staying so late.
Wow.
I really appreciate it.
Thank you for your,
I think everybody
you all work.
It's a noon sleeping time till noon tomorrow. My goodness.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Tell your son to say happy